The glass elevator at Morgan Technologies rose smoothly through the gleaming tower, each floor marking another step toward a moment I'd planned for 2 years. I adjusted my simple gray blazer, purchased from a department store, nothing like the designer suits surrounding me in this corporate cathedral of steel and glass. Going up, a man in an impeccable navy suit stepped in, barely glancing at me. I nodded, letting him assume I was just another low-level employee. If he only knew. My phone buzzed, another text from Marcus, my brother. "Where are you? Remember what we discussed. Stay in the back. Don't draw attention. This is my night." I didn't respond. Instead, I watched the floor numbers climb. 38, 39, 40. The top floor boardroom awaited, where Morgan Technologies would be announcing their new senior vice president of operations. My brother Marcus, the golden child, was about to receive the promotion he'd been bragging about for weeks. Growing up, Marcus had always been our parents' pride and joy. While I'd buried myself in business books and studied late into the night, he charmed his way through life with an easy smile and calculated charisma. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. When I got accepted to business school, Marcus told everyone I was hiding in academia, while he was making real moves in the corporate world. When I completed my MBA, he dismissed it as just paper compared to his real-world experience. The elevator dinged at the 45th floor. As I stepped out, memories of last month's family dinner surfaced. Sarah's still playing at being a professor, Marcus had announced, cutting into his steak. While I'm about to become the youngest SVP in Morgan Technologies history. Mom beamed at him. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart." Some people, she glanced my way, just aren't cut out for the corporate world. Dad nodded sagely. Academic life suits Sarah. Safe, predictable. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real business. I'd said nothing, just smiled and ate my dinner. Let them think what they wanted. They had no idea that while I was hiding in academia, I'd been building something much bigger. Now, walking through the sleek hallways of Morgan Technologies, I felt the weight of the documents in my briefcase. 2 years of careful planning, strategic investments, and quiet negotiations had led to this moment. The boardroom doors loomed ahead. Through the glass, I could see Marcus holding court, his perfectly tailored suit and practiced smile radiating confidence. Our parents sat in the front row, practically glowing with pride. Marcus spotted me and frowned, quickly making his way over. "I told you to stay in the back," he hissed. "This is my moment. Don't embarrass me by trying to network or whatever you're planning." "Don't worry," I said quietly. "I'm not here to steal your spotlight." He eyed my simple outfit with disdain. "Good. Just try to look professional at least, and don't mention we're related." As he walked away, I checked my watch. Right on schedule, Miranda Chen, the CEO of Morgan Technologies, would be arriving to make the announcement. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd met with Miranda many times over the past year, but not about his promotion. The room quieted as Miranda strode in, commanding attention without effort. She took her place at the podium, shuffling her notes with practiced precision. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "thank you for joining us today. We're here to announce some significant changes at Morgan Technologies." Marcus straightened his tie, ready for his moment. "But before we discuss any promotions," Miranda continued, "I have an important announcement. As many of you know, I've been searching for the right person to take Morgan Technologies into the future. Someone with vision, integrity, and a deep understanding of where this industry is heading." She paused, scanning the room. Marcus's smile widened. That search led me to someone who impressed me not just with their business acumen, but with their innovative approach to technology and leadership. Someone who quietly built an investment portfolio that includes controlling interests in 3 of our major competitors. Marcus's smile faltered slightly. This wasn't part of his script. Over the past year, this person has been systematically acquiring shares in Morgan Technologies through various investment vehicles. As of this morning, they've succeeded in purchasing a controlling interest in our company. The room broke into confused murmurs. Marcus's face had gone pale. "Ladies and gentlemen," Miranda said, "please join me in welcoming the new owner and CEO of Morgan Technologies." She turned and extended her hand toward me. "Dr. Sarah Mitchell." The silence was absolute as I walked to the podium. Marcus stumbled backward, his carefully planned speech falling from nerveless fingers. In the front row, our parents sat frozen, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Thank you, Miranda," I said, taking my place at the podium. The documents in my briefcase would wait. Right now, I had a company to address, and a lifetime of underestimation to correct. The boardroom remained frozen in shocked silence as I stood at the podium. Miranda Chen stepped aside, a slight smile playing at her lips. She had kept our secret well, understanding exactly why this moment needed to happen exactly this way. "Before we continue," I said, my voice steady, "I believe congratulations are in order. Marcus, would you join me up here?" My brother's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. He stood rooted to his spot, designer suit suddenly seeming too tight at the collar. Our parents remained motionless in their front row seats, Mother's perfectly manicured hands gripping her purse so tightly our knuckles had gone white. "Marcus," I repeated, letting authority fill my voice. "Please." He moved woodenly toward the podium, each step looking like it physically pained him. The whispers had started now, rippling through the crowd as people connected the dots between our shared last name. "As you all know," I continued, "Marcus was to be announced as your new Senior Vice President of Operations today." I paused, letting the tension build. That announcement will still be going forward, though with some adjustments. Marcus's head snapped up, hope and confusion warring on his face. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to review everyone's performance records, including Marcus's. While his sales numbers are impressive, there have been some concerning patterns in his management style and strategic decisions. I opened my briefcase and removed a folder, watching Marcus's eyes track my movements. Specifically, the Harrison account proposal from last quarter. I held up a document, the one where you took credit for Jennifer Torres's work while she was on maternity leave. The color drained from Marcus's face. In the audience, a young woman in a charcoal suit sat out straighter. "Or the Stevens Technology merger," I continued, extracting another file, "where you conveniently failed to mention the massive pension liability that would come with the acquisition, the liability you discovered during due diligence but chose to hide." That's taken out of context," Marcus stammered, finding his voice. "You don't understand how business works in the real world. Sometimes you have to make morally questionable decisions to get ahead." I finished for him. "Steal credit from your subordinates, hide critical information from the board." Our father stood up suddenly. "Now see here," he blustered, his face reddening. "You can't just walk in here and start making accusations. Marcus has worked his way up through a combination of charm, manipulation, and taking credit for others' work." I cut in. "Yes, I know exactly how he's worked his way up. I've spent the last year reviewing every decision, every proposal, every partnership he's been involved with. I turn to address the room at large. Morgan Technologies has an incredible team of dedicated, innovative professionals. People who work hard, support each other, and operate with integrity. Starting today, those are the people who will be recognized and rewarded. My eyes found Jennifer Torres in the crowd. Ms. Torres, I'd like to meet with you tomorrow morning to discuss your actual contributions to the Harrison Project and your thoughts on leading the new digital transformation initiative. Jennifer sat up straighter, a slow smile spreading across her face as Marcus seemed to shrink beside me. This is ridiculous. Our mother's voice cut through the room as she stood, designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Sarah, you've always been jealous of your brother's success. This little power play of yours. Mrs. Mitchell, Miranda interrupted smoothly. Perhaps we should continue this family discussion privately. The board and I have some organizational announcements to make. I nodded. My office, I said, indicating the large corner office that had been prepared over the past week. Now, as our parents and Marcus followed me into the office, I could hear Miranda beginning to outline the company's new direction to the assembled employees. The heavy door clicked shut behind us, muffling the sound. Have you lost your mind? Marcus exploded the moment we were alone. You can't just walk in here and... I can and I did, I replied calmly, taking my seat behind the desk. I own 51% of Morgan Technologies now. Every decision, every promotion, every strategic move goes through me. How? Our father demanded. Where did you get that kind of money? This company is worth billions. I leaned back in my chair. Remember that silly little consulting firm I started during my hiding in academia phase? Turns out there's good money in helping tech companies optimize their operations and identify acquisition targets. I smiled. Very good money, when you do it right. But you live in that tiny apartment, our mother protested. You drive a used car. You shop at department stores. Because I was investing everything into building something bigger, I opened my laptop. Now let's discuss Marcus's new position. New position? Marcus sputtered. I'm supposed to be senior vice president. You were, I agreed. But given the pattern of ethical violations I've uncovered, that's no longer appropriate. I pulled up a document on my screen. Instead, you'll be taking a lateral move to our new Minneapolis office as a regional sales manager. The blood drained from Marcus's face. Minneapolis? Sales manager? You can't do this to me. Minneapolis is lovely this time of year, I said mildly. Though I hear the winters are quite cold, you might want to invest in a good coat. Department stores have some excellent options. Our father slammed his hand on my desk. This is outrageous. We'll fight this. The board won't stand for. The board, I cut in, has already approved all personnel changes. They've known about this transition for weeks. Only the three of you were kept in the dark. I stood up, straightening my simple blazer. You have until the end of the day to clear out your office, Marcus. Your flight to Minneapolis leaves tomorrow morning. First class, of course. I'm not completely heartless. And if I refuse? Marcus challenged, though his voice shook slightly. Then you can explain to potential employers why you were terminated for ethical violations. Your choice. I checked my watch. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. As they filed out of my office, shoulders slumped in defeat, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. The simple gray blazer didn't look so plain anymore. It looked exactly like what it was, the outfit of someone who had worked for everything she had, who had earned every step up the ladder. But my day wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because what my family didn't know was that Morgan Technologies was just the beginning. The real changes, the ones that would reshape not just our family dynamic, but the entire industry, were still to come. I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Everything's in place," I said when the line connected. Time for Phase 2. 3 months after taking control of Morgan Technologies, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports. The Minneapolis weather update on my screen showed heavy snow. I wondered if Marcus had bought that winter coat yet. A soft knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called, already knowing who it would be. Jennifer Torres entered, carrying a tablet and looking considerably more confident than she had 3 months ago. As the new head of digital transformation, she'd already implemented changes that had increased efficiency by 30%. "The Stevens technology audit is complete," she reported, taking a seat. "You were right about the pension liability being just the tip of the iceberg. We've uncovered at least a dozen other issues Marcus tried to hide." I nodded, unsurprised. "Send me the full report. And Jennifer, good work." She smiled, the smile of someone who was finally being recognized for their talents. "There's something else. Your parents are in the lobby." I glanced at my calendar, though I already knew it was empty. "Send them up." While waiting, I opened my desk drawer and removed a thick manila envelope. Inside were documents I'd been preparing for weeks, ever since Phase 2 had begun. My parents entered without knocking. Mom looked thinner, her designer outfit from last season showing signs of wear. Dad's golf tan had faded, and his shoulders stooped slightly. "Sarah," Mom started, her voice carrying forced brightness, "we've been trying to reach you." "I've been busy," I replied coolly. "Running a company takes considerable time. Please sit." They settled into the chairs across from my desk, looking uncomfortable. The silence stretched. "It's about Marcus," Dad finally said. "He's struggling in Minneapolis. His performance reports reflect that." I agreed. "His sales numbers are well below target. He's not used to the cold," Mom interjected quickly. "And that tiny apartment. Nothing like his condo here. Couldn't you find something closer? Maybe a position in the Chicago office?" I leaned back in my chair. "Has Marcus mentioned why his numbers are down?" They exchanged glances. Dad cleared his throat. "He says the clients there are different, more demanding." "They're not different," I said. "They just expect actual results, not empty promises and stolen ideas. Marcus can't coast on charm there because I specifically instructed the regional director to verify all his work." That's harassment," Dad sputtered. "That's accountability," I corrected. "Something Marcus has never had to face before." I opened the manila envelope. "Which brings me to why I've been trying to reach you both as well." Their eyes fixed on the documents I spread across my desk. Property records, bank statements, investment portfolios. When I was reviewing Marcus's financial records, I found some interesting transactions. I continued. "Large transfers from your accounts to his, dating back 5 years. Money that came from mortgaging your house. Twice." Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's face paled. "He said it was for investments," Mom whispered. "Special opportunities." "He lost it all," I said quietly. "High-risk trades, failed startups, gambling. The second mortgage payment is due next week. You can't cover it, can you?" Dad's shoulders slumped completely. We We were hoping that I would bail you out, I finished. Like you bailed him out, over and over, while telling me I didn't understand real business. Tears welled in Mom's eyes. Sarah, please. We'll lose the house. I pulled out another document. This is a proposal. Morgan Technologies will purchase your house at market value, clearing both mortgages. You can continue living there, paying rent at 30% below market rate. Their eyes widened with hope. But, I continued, there are conditions. First, you'll both attend financial management counseling. Second, you will not send any more money to Marcus. And third, I met their eyes firmly. You will acknowledge, in writing, how you've treated me all these years. That's blackmail, Dad protested weakly. That's accountability, I repeated. Something this family desperately needs. I stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. For years, you dismissed my achievements, belittled my choices, poured all your love and resources into Marcus while treating me like an afterthought. I turned back to face them. That ends now. Mom was crying openly now. Dad stared at his hands. The choice is yours, I said. Sign the agreement, keep your home, and maybe, we can build something new from the ashes of what this family has become. Or don't sign, lose the house, and continue enabling Marcus's destructive behavior. I placed a pen on the desk between them. But understand this, I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because sometimes love means forcing people to face hard truths. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then slowly, Dad reached for the pen. As they signed, my phone buzzed with a text from Minneapolis. Marcus had finally hit rock bottom, admitting to his regional director that he needed help. I'd already arranged for him to enter a program that would address his gambling addiction and teach him actual business ethics. Looking at my parents, I saw something I'd never seen before in their eyes when they looked at me. Respect. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of understanding. The car will take you home, I said, pressing a button to summon my driver. The counselor will contact you tomorrow to set up your first session. They stood, looking somehow both smaller and lighter than when they'd entered. Sarah. Mom paused at the door. I'm sorry. For everything. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. After they left, I sank back into my chair and finally let out a long breath. Phase 2 was complete. The family that had dismissed me for so long was finally seeing me clearly, not just as a successful businesswoman, but as someone strong enough to help them face their own failures. Jennifer knocked again, entering with a fresh stack of reports. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. They're eager to hear about the new expansion plans. I smiled, gathering my materials. Time to focus on the future, not just of Morgan Technologies, but of all the people who worked here. People like Jennifer, who deserved their chance to shine. As I walked into the boardroom, I caught my reflection in the window. The simple gray blazer was gone, replaced by one I'd chosen for myself. Not designer, not flashy, but perfectly suited to who I was. Someone who had built success on substance rather than style. The board members rose as I entered. They'd learned quickly that I was nothing like my brother, and everything a leader should be. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, let's talk about where we're going next. Because success, real success, isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And I was just getting started. The glass elevator at Morgan Technologies rose smoothly through the gleaming tower, each floor marking another step toward a moment I'd planned for 2 years. I adjusted my simple gray blazer, purchased from a department store. Nothing like the designer suits surrounding me.
Emma smiled proudly, thinking she caught someone rummaging through garbage. Little did she know, this mistake would lead to her demise. My name's Sally, I'm 32. I work at a TV and film studio fixing costumes. We have all sorts of outfits there, from fancy historical ones to modern clothes for shows. I adjust them to fit the actors and repair any damage from filming. I spend my days sewing, using machines and irons. I learned sewing from my mom when I was young, so this job feels like it's meant for me. Even though the hours can be odd and the workload heavy, I love what I do and hope to do it forever. I met my husband Joe while working at the studio. He looked after the actors there. Since we saw each other every day, we became close over time. 2 years later, despite our busy schedules, we got married. But just as we started our new life together, my mother got sick and passed away suddenly. This forced Joe and me to delay our wedding plans. Originally, we were going to have a simple ceremony with family at a local church. But now we had to save up for a proper wedding and honeymoon. Since our work hours were unpredictable, we decided not to rent a place to live temporarily. Instead, we moved in with Joe's mother, Emma, at his family home. Both Joe and I had lost our fathers early in life, so we understood each other's pain. Since my mother was the only parent left for me and Joe worried about his mother being alone, living together seemed like a good idea. I wanted us to get along with Emma, but it turned out to be a nightmare. Emma didn't want to accept me as part of the family. To her, I was like a thief who stole her son. As soon as we moved in, she started harassing me. Emma's criticisms were relentless. She'd point out every speck of dirt, making me feel like my upbringing must have been lacking. I endured her constant nagging, pushing myself to clean until my hands were raw and bleeding. Her standards for chores were sky high. Cleaning, laundry, cooking, everything had to be perfect. If it wasn't up to her standards, she'd make me do it again without a second thought. And the more tired I got, the worse it got. No matter how hard I tried, she always found fault. I even remember staying up all night scrubbing the sink once. It seemed like she was never happy with anything I did. She insisted I handle all the household chores, and when I tried to balance them with my job by working from home, she only made more demands. Every day felt like I was living Cinderella's story, slaving away at chores. Did you finish the laundry? There's a torn curtain upstairs. Fix it. You're good at sewing, right, Sally? I'm sorry, I have urgent work. Can't the curtain wait until the weekend? I pleaded, hoping for some understanding. What are you saying? If it's left like that, who knows what the neighbors will say? Fix it right away. Emma snapped back, showing no sympathy for my workload. I found myself constantly juggling work and chores, often working late into the night because there was always something to do. Emma seemed to take pleasure in seeing me worn out. She was like a cruel bully, especially when Joe wasn't around during the day. Our relationship felt more like that of a boss and a maid. I did all the housework, but I couldn't easily talk to Joe about it because of my pride. I tried my best to fulfill my duties, but it wasn't just the physical strain that wore me down. It was the constant mental pressure. Sometimes, Emma would invite neighbors over for lunch, and those occasions were unbearable. She would be even harsher in front of them, and I could hear them gossiping about me. Seriously, she's such a terrible daughter-in-law. I have to correct her every single day. My son doesn't see it, but I'm not fooled. She's just so unlikable and clueless. I listened to the neighbors' laughter, feeling like they were agreeing with Emma's harsh words. It hurt deeply, even though chores could be finished. The hurtful words stayed with me. Every day felt like I was reaching my breaking point. If things kept going like this, I feared I might lose my sanity. But it wasn't just Emma. Joe had an older sister, Sarah, who was 38. Sarah lived nearby with her boyfriend and was quite tight with money. She'd often come over for lunch at our place, probably to save on food costs. What made it hard was that she never gave a heads up about her visits. So I couldn't prepare enough food for her. She'd just show up, eat, and leave. And she had this habit of claiming everything as hers. Things at her parents' house or ours, it didn't matter. One day, I finally spoke up, "Sarah, could you please let me know before you take something?" She must have told Emma about it. "Did you tell Sarah not to come over anymore?" Emma confronted me. "What? No, I didn't say that." I defended myself. "So you're saying Sarah's lying?" Caught between Sarah's deceit and Emma's cruelty, dealing with either one alone was already tough. but having to face both of them together made the mental burden even heavier. One day, as I walked past the room where Sarah and Emma were talking, their voices were loud enough for me to overhear. "It's like having a free maid." "How nice." "I'm jealous." "Send her to my house too," Sarah remarked. "Maid? Am I not a daughter-in-law?" I couldn't help but interject. I had secretly thought of myself as nothing more than a maid, but hearing it said out loud was unbearable. It felt like something inside me snapped. That night, I finally opened up to Joe about how I was feeling. "I can't do this anymore. I tried to be patient, but living with Emma is unbearable. Please, I want us to move somewhere else," I confessed to Joe, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders. After a moment of silence, Joe replied, "Okay, we've saved up enough money. Let's find a new place soon." "Really? I'll start looking for a place right away," I said, tears of relief streaming down my face. Little did we know, Emma was standing right outside our room, overhearing our conversation. We had no clue this would trigger her strange behavior later on. But from that day forward, the once oppressive days started to feel brighter. I had one dream, to wear a wedding dress that I had made for my own wedding. After all, sewing was my profession. Filled with determination after talking with Joe, I immediately ordered a large amount of fabric online. I decided to focus on making the dress as my new purpose. That's what I resolved to do. I began sewing the dress secretly in my room, away from Emma and Sarah. But one day Sarah, who often popped by unannounced, caught me. "Wow, what's this dress?" "It's beautiful to have your own handmade dress," she remarked. "Hey Sally, I'm getting married in 2 months. Could you make my dress too, please?" "Yes, renting is just a waste of money. I want to keep wedding costs low, so please," she insisted, true to her penny-pinching nature. I hesitated, but since she agreed to cover the material costs, I agreed to make it. I started working on Sarah's dress first, since our wedding was still far off. Sarah asked me to keep it a secret from Mom, hinting that she planned to tell Emma she was renting the dress to get financial support from her. Whatever Sarah paid me for materials, she was determined to get back. Her thriftiness was almost impressive. I even talked to Joe about it, and he said, "Sis never backs down once she decides something. I'm sorry, but it would really help if you could make it for her." With his encouragement, I agreed, feeling positive and motivated since I was getting paid. I saw it as practice for making my own dress without spending on materials. I also hoped it might improve my relationship with Sarah, so I focused on dressmaking between housework and my main job. Even Emma seemed to catch on to what I was doing. She'd occasionally peek into my room. Sarah's wedding was coming up fast, and the dress was almost done. Then one day, Emma came into my room with a smile. "You're working hard again today, aren't you tired?" Her sudden change in attitude was unsettling. "I'm going to make some coffee. Why don't you take a break?" she offered. "Really? That would be great. Thank you," I replied. As Emma left humming, I felt a strange unease. Emma making coffee for me? That was unheard of. Could it be something more sinister? Different thoughts raced through my mind, but I tried not to worry. I got back to work, adding the final touches of lace. The end was in sight. Despite it being Sarah's dress, I found myself putting love into it. Suddenly, I smelled coffee. Emma knocked on the door. "Sally, may I come in?" she asked. "Oh, well, sure," I replied. The next moment, I was shocked. Emma entered with a tray piled high with cups and saucers, all filled with coffee. "Emma, wait, it wasn't just for two," I protested. It looked like she was preparing for a party. The tray was so heavy her arms trembled as I instinctively moved to stop her from entering further. "Oops," Emma pretended to trip. The sound of cups breaking and coffee splashing everywhere filled the room. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what happened. Everything felt like slow motion. Looking down, my yellow-colored dress was stained like a giraffe pattern. "Ah!" I screamed involuntarily. I did miss the brief smile on Emma's face. "Oh no, I'm so sorry. It wasn't on purpose. Did you get burned?" "Wait, is that a dress?" "I thought you were going through trash," she babbled. I was speechless. The shock of her actions left me frozen. Then Emma feigned concern. "Oh dear, you can't have your wedding like this, can you?" My suspicions turned into certainty. Emma was trying to sabotage our wedding. Her plan was to ruin our plans to move out after the wedding. But I couldn't afford to be angry now. I rushed to the bathroom with the stained dress, frantically rinsing off the coffee. I knew the stain would set if I didn't act fast. Emma watched with a malicious grin, offering help that I coldly refused. I was filled with anger and panic. Then someone unexpected appeared behind Emma. It was Sarah. "What's this? Are you bullying Sally again?" Sarah questioned, noticing the tension. "No, I just accidentally spilled coffee on her dress," Emma replied, seemingly enjoying the situation. But then things took an unexpected turn. "What? Are you serious? That's my dress." "Wait, what?" Sarah exclaimed, bewildered. Emma was speechless, realizing her mistake. "Yours, Sarah? What do you mean? I can't believe this. I had her make my dress. What am I going to do? My wedding is in 2 weeks." Emma panicked like never before, while I listened to the ridiculous exchange. I continued washing the dress I had been working on for months for my sister-in-law. As I washed, I realized something I hadn't told anyone. I was making the dress for Sarah, so Emma must have thought the dress was for me. She wouldn't have deliberately spilled coffee otherwise. If she had known it was for Sarah, there'd be no reason to ruin it. Joe and I planned to leave this dreaded family home after the wedding. To Emma, I was always the intruder who stole her beloved son. She couldn't bear the thought of me taking him away, so she tried to sabotage our wedding, thinking it would keep her son at home. Such petty thoughts led to Emma's bizarre actions. Sarah was furious, blaming Emma and attacking her. "How could you do this? Everything is ruined. I can't believe my own mother would destroy my wedding," she exclaimed. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Please forgive me. I didn't know it was your dress." "You don't think I did it on purpose, do you?" Emma finally spoke her true feelings while I pretended not to hear and continued washing the dress. Then a man's voice interrupted. "So you thought it was Sally's dress and deliberately stained it?" Everyone turned around at once. "Oh, Joe, when did you get here?" I asked, surprised by his sudden appearance. Joe stood there with a mix of disappointment and disbelief on his face. I had been so focused on washing the dress and listening to their argument that I hadn't noticed Joe's arrival. He had been silently observing the ugly quarrel between his mother and sister. Joe began to speak slowly, his disappointment evident. "You saw Sally working hard on that dress every night, and yet you deliberately stained it. That's truly despicable," he said sternly. Emma and Sarah were taken aback. Emma, in particular, had probably never imagined being scolded by her son, whom she cherished so much. Joe continued calmly yet sadly, "I'm disappointed, Mom. Sally endured your attitude all this time, hoping that one day you might change. She was patient for my sake because you're my mom." His words brought tears to my eyes. I had mistaken Joe's kindness for indecisiveness and submission to his mother, but now I saw him as a man determined to protect the woman he loved. Joe's firm stance, though unexpected, made me fall for him all over again. He addressed Emma, "And it all comes down to this. I can't overlook it, Mom. Sorry, but Sally and I are leaving this place as soon as possible. I'll stay until the wedding for your sake, but I can't stay any longer. This time it was just a dress. But who knows, Sally could be in danger next time. It'll be too late then, Mom." "Danger? I would never put her in danger. How can you even say that after ruining Sally's hard work so casually?" Emma's denial was met with Joe's palpable anger. Despite his frustration, Joe didn't resort to harsh words or an overbearing attitude. Instead, he quietly expressed his anger towards Emma. His expression, a mix of anger and deep sadness, was something I had never seen before. He was confronting everything he believed about his mother, who had always doted on him. Emma's usual quick wit and aggressive remarks were replaced by tears, leaving her speechless. Even Sarah was stunned, shifting her gaze between Joe and Emma. Later, Sarah decided to cancel her wedding, so close to the date, and she wouldn't get any of her money back. "It's not my fault at all. Emma was the one who paid for it," Sarah insisted. So Sarah wasn't losing any money, but Emma seemed to finally regret her thoughtless harassment that had gone too far. The shock of being scolded by her son also left her weakened. But the consequences weren't confined to our house. Sarah's sudden cancellation angered her boyfriend and his family, leading to their breakup. Sarah continually blamed Emma for this outcome. After we left the family home, Emma occasionally contacted us, asking for money. One reason she didn't want us to leave was the financial aspect. While living together, we contributed to the household expenses, but Emma had no income apart from her pension. It seemed she had been relying on our money. Every time Emma called asking for money, Joe refused. "Mom, why don't you work? There are plenty of jobs out there. We need to be independent, you and us. Please leave us alone," Joe pleaded. Despite Emma's pleas not to be abandoned, Joe remained firm. His sense of duty seemed to drive his resolve. Eventually, Emma found work as a janitor, which ironically suited her strictness with cleaning. It was somewhat amusing. Meanwhile, Sarah, after breaking up with her boyfriend and moving back in with Emma, stopped working altogether. She relied on Emma's part-time income and pension. I saw her once, and she was unrecognizably overweight. Joe and I moved into an apartment and are enjoying our new happy life, free from snide remarks and sarcasm. Our life now is blissful compared to our time in that dysfunctional family home. We finally set a date for our wedding, a small ceremony with just friends and colleagues. We chose not to invite Emma and Sarah to avoid any disturbances, especially considering their difficult situations. But that's how it has to be. They brought it upon themselves. I've started making a new dress for the big day. It's going to be much more beautiful than the one that ended up with a giraffe pattern. After my husband's company became successful, he started acting different. He didn't hide the fact that he was seeing another woman. When I confronted him about it, he just laughed at me. "You don't make any money, so you should be happy I'm supporting you," he said. "Maybe then I'll think about getting a job." I told him I would find a job myself, and he just laughed and said I could do whatever I wanted. So I got a job at his parents' company, and that's when I decided to get back at him. My name is Karen, and I'm 34 years old. My husband Michael is 36 and runs a printing company. We used to work at the same place. I did illustrations and he worked in sales. We fell in love and got married when I was 26. Later, he left his job and we talked about starting our own company together. I wasn't sure what to do, so I talked to our business partner, Bob. We'd worked with Bob before, back at our old job. He was the CEO there and had his hands in lots of different businesses, especially dealing with advertising. Bob liked my illustrations and was keen to support us. He even put some money into our new venture. "I really like Karen's drawings," he said. "I'm grateful for her talent. Together, we'll make this company a success." I told Bob that I was on board, and we started running the company together. At first, things were tough. We lived in a small apartment, but once the company started doing well, we could afford to move into a fancy condo. That's when my husband asked me to stop working and focus on being a homemaker. "I'll find someone else to do the illustrations. I want you to support me," he said. I felt like I had to go along with it, but I knew I had to tell Bob about what was happening. He had invested in our company, so he deserved to know. "I'm really sorry, but I have to stop doing the illustrations," I told him. Bob seemed genuinely upset. "I'll miss seeing your drawings, Karen. If you ever want to start again, just let me know. I'll always be here to help." "Thank you so much," I said gratefully. So I started focusing on being a homemaker to help my husband out. But I couldn't give up drawing completely, so I started sharing my illustrations as a hobby on Instagram. People really liked them, and it became my little secret joy. Even though I stopped working, my husband's company kept growing. Our life got better too. He got a new car, and he started buying expensive suits from famous brands. I didn't really get why he needed all that, but I guess it's important to look good when you're the boss. No matter how busy he got, my husband always made time for dinner at home. It was something we promised each other. Even when things got hectic, he insisted on having that time just for us. We'd sit down, have dinner, and he'd tell me about the future plans for the company. I was happy just to be there for him and support his dreams. I thought it would always be like that. The company kept doing well, but I started noticing a change in my husband. He stopped talking to me about the company during dinner. "How's work going?" I'd ask. "Fine," he'd say, not really interested. I kept asking him about work, wanting to know more, but he snapped at me, saying I wouldn't understand because I'm always at home. It hurt to hear him talk to me like that. I tried to tell myself he was just tired and stressed. That night, he finished his meal quietly and went straight to bed. This went on for a while, and then he started eating dinner out. He'd make excuses about socializing or work events, but he used to always eat at home. Even then, I'd wait for him delaying my dinner. But now he'd just leave without a word. And recently, he wouldn't even bother sending an excuse. When I brought it up, he'd just yell at me. It felt like he was a different person. I started to feel like nothing more than a servant to him, and it made me really upset. When we started the company, we went through tough times together. But now, I felt like I was beneath even his employees. I didn't do housework because I liked it. I did it because I wanted to help him achieve his dreams. But he didn't seem grateful for any of it anymore. While my husband was away, I found solace in my illustrations. It was the only thing that helped me relax. As I kept drawing, more people started following me, leaving kind comments. Even Bob's name popped up among them. He offered to work together again, and just the thought of it made me feel hopeful. Without that hope, I don't know if I could have kept going. As we stopped having dinner together, a gap started growing between my husband and me. Eventually, I started suspecting there was another woman in his life. I smelled a different perfume on his jacket, one he'd never use. When I asked him about it, he just brushed it off, smirking like being caught wouldn't matter. For the first time, my sadness turned into anger. I was tired of being mocked and left alone at home, unable to do anything but chores. I felt anxious about being left behind by society. My friends envied me, but they didn't understand. Even my parents laughed it off as a fancy worry. I had to face this problem alone. Then, one day, my husband came home drunk. I took care of him and put him to bed, but I noticed a lipstick mark on his shirt. There was no way he'd have that mark for no reason. It was like a message from the other woman, a declaration of war. Finally, I had proof of his cheating. The next day, I confronted him with the shirt. "Where were you last night? And what's this kiss mark?" I demanded, pointing at the mark on his shirt. My husband looked surprised by the kiss mark but didn't seem bothered by my questions. "I was out with friends at a bar. It must have happened then, right?" His tone was dismissive. "You'd have to take off your jacket for that to happen. Didn't you notice?" I said I don't remember. He continued, suddenly standing up. His hand came down hard on my cheek in a sharp slap. Stumbling backward, I struggled to process what had just happened. All I felt was a burning pain on my cheek. "When will you get it? Who do you think is providing for us?" My husband's words pierced the air as he walked away, leaving me behind with tears streaming down my face. It felt like my husband didn't love me anymore. The harsh reality shattered me. After that, my husband's behavior became violent whenever he was unhappy. If he didn't like the meal I made, he'd throw the plate on the floor. "This tastes terrible. Don't you know what I like to eat?" he'd yell. "If you want to stay married to me, you better improve your cooking." Every time he erupted like this, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. "Wait, I'll make what you like," I'd beg, but he never listened. "I'll just eat out. Your food will affect my work," he'd say dismissively. I'd chase after him, desperate to fix things. "But you're never home or talk to me. How can I make something you like?" I'd ask, tears filling my eyes. Clearly irritated by my desperation, my husband clicked his tongue. "So do you want a divorce? I'm fine with it. I can manage without you, but you can't manage without me, can you?" he sneered. "You're worthless, not making any money. You're just living off me like a parasite," he spat out, his words cutting deep into my heart. That was the moment something inside me broke. The loving and caring husband I once knew seemed gone. "I'll find a job," I declared, my voice shaking with determination. "What? What are you talking about?" My husband laughed, his tone dripping with scorn. "Who would hire someone as useless as you?" I gritted my teeth, trying to contain my anger. I couldn't let myself lose control and end up facing more abuse. Since I couldn't fight back physically, I had to find another way to stand up for myself. "Fine, do whatever you want," my husband sneered. "But don't forget about your house chores with your measly income. I won't tolerate neglect." As soon as he left, I sprang into action. I hired a detective to gather evidence of my husband's affair. It didn't take long before I had plenty of photos showing him with other women, drinking, and going into hotels together. 1 week after gathering the evidence, I went to a fancy restaurant on the top floor of a hotel. I wore my best clothes, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place among the wealthy clientele. Bob was already at the table when I arrived. "I'm sorry for being late," I said nervously. "Don't worry at all, Karen. I've been looking forward to our meeting," Bob said warmly, motioning for me to sit. "Waiting for you was no trouble at all." Bob had been a big help when my husband and I started our own business. Now, he was the president of my husband's parent company. "Thank you for supporting us when we went independent," I said gratefully. "I was surprised when you and your husband decided to go independent, but since we've worked together for so long, supporting you financially was a no-brainer," Bob replied. "It seems like your company is thriving, thanks to your efforts." Bob's expression turned serious as he spoke. "But today, let's focus on you accepting my invitation, all right?" he said, offering a reassuring smile. "Yes, of course," I said, sitting up straight and returning his greeting. Bob had always been a big fan of my illustrations. He backed us financially when we decided to go independent because he believed in what I could do. He was also the one person who encouraged me not to give up my career to become a homemaker. We lost touch for a while, but he found me on social media and reached out, I explained. We started talking again through email and text messages. "But you always understood my illustrations so well, didn't you?" I asked, hoping to confirm our shared understanding. "I've always been a fan of your work, and I'm really happy you didn't give up on illustrating," Bob replied warmly. "But I never expected you to accept my offer to join my team." Bob had offered me a job as an illustrator before, but I turned him down because of my household responsibilities. Still, he kept reaching out to me, and it was only a week ago that I finally agreed to join him. In a conversation with my husband, Bob seemed hesitant at first, but then he looked me straight in the eyes. "I hate to say this, but Michael's company has a pretty bad reputation." "What? Really?" I was shocked. Everything my husband told me about his job seemed positive, so this news from Bob caught me off guard. I've been working with him for a long time, but ever since the business started growing, the quality of work has gone down, Bob explained. "Deadlines are missed, mistakes happen, and he doesn't seem to take responsibility for it." "Is this reputation widely known?" "Well, with his company growing so fast, it's bound to attract attention. But now, it's the wrong kind of attention. There are even rumors about him getting involved with a shady group," Bob said, his tone serious. I had no idea, I admitted, realizing how little I actually knew about my husband's business. Trying to change the subject, Bob said cheerfully, "Anyway, you'll be creating illustrations for us now. No need to outsource anymore. It's a big win for our company. I really appreciate you being flexible and understanding about my family situation," I said, feeling grateful. "It's okay. We don't believe in overworking our employees anyway," Bob said with a reassuring smile. And so I started my job with Bob. My role was solely focused on creating illustrations, so I didn't need to go into the office. Bob allowed me to work from home, which meant I could balance my work with my household responsibilities. Drawing, something I truly loved, brought me so much joy. It had started as a hobby, but now I was thrilled to be working on commissions. As I was working one day, I heard the door slam loudly. When I went to investigate, I found my husband standing there, his eyes filled with rage. "You traitor," he suddenly spat out. I was caught off guard by my husband's sudden outburst. To think my own wife would steal my job. That's when it hit me. The reason for his anger became clear. Since I started working with Bob, I began getting contracts with other companies. Thanks to Bob's recommendations, I managed to secure deals smoothly, and most of these companies were partners with my husband's business. This was my way of getting back at him. It must have been frustrating for him to have jobs taken away by the very person he underestimated. "You don't have any right to say anything to me. I've just been doing my job, and you gave me permission," I said calmly, meeting his rage with determination. My husband's anger burned in his eyes, but I didn't back down. "Go ahead. Hit me if you want. I'll call the police," I declared firmly. "The police?" My husband's anger seemed to lessen a bit at the mention of law enforcement. "My company is failing because of you. What are you trying to do?" he shouted, desperation edging into his voice. "It's not my fault," I replied calmly. I retrieved the divorce papers and handed them to him. "We're not husband and wife anymore." "Don't be absurd. You're divorcing me because my company is failing. You're just after my money," he accused, his words dripping with bitterness. "I could have divorced you at any time, but I thought now was the right time. I have a lot of work now, and I'm making money," I retorted, showing him the evidence of his affair. My husband, hearing everything, fell to his knees and begged, "Please, please. The company is in trouble. I can't handle compensation or a divorce on top of everything. Please support me. Everyone else has abandoned me as soon as they found out the company was struggling. You're the only one who hasn't." I didn't listen to his desperate plea. I left the house with only my work tools and a change of clothes. The next time I returned was to pick up my belongings after the divorce was finalized. My husband's company was making mistakes left and right, and no one wanted to work with him. He spent his days begging to pay me compensation. Meanwhile, I started living on my own, making a living from my illustrations. I became quite wealthy, but I never forgot my integrity, using my ex-husband's actions as a lesson in what not to do. We've been married for 3 years. My father-in-law, who was very kind to me, has passed away after being sick for a long time. He died peacefully with his family around him. I think we should invite Mom to come live with us, I said. Yeah, that's a good idea. Her legs and back have been giving her trouble. And since I work from home, I can help her a lot, my spouse agreed. So we decided to ask my mother-in-law to come live with us. My spouse told the family about our plan before the funeral. Why are you saying that? You just asked your mom for her savings of $2 million, didn't you? One family member said. Don't worry, we're going to take care of her and live with her, my spouse reassured. That's right. She wouldn't have to worry as much in her current home. Leave it to us, I added. Some of my sisters-in-law, seeming rushed and insistent, agreed to live with her. It's not about the money. You shouldn't think that way. Mom gets to decide, and I respect her choice. I replied to their accusations. When Liam asked, our mother-in-law bowed her head and said, Thank you. Your child is still small, so I'll stay at my current house, she said, meaning she'd rely on her daughter. I've never heard about any savings, I remarked, surprised by the sudden accusations. The couple acted like we were the bad guys for suggesting we live together without worrying about money. Maybe she's the one who wants to live together, Liam wondered aloud as we drove home. In the car ride back, Mia thought about this. I agree. I get that feeling too. We should check in on your mom when we have time, I suggested. After that, I visited her when I could and tried my best to look after her, hoping it would make Liam feel better. But within a few months, their attitude towards my mother-in-law changed a lot. One day, when I stopped by during a break from work, my sister-in-law was there. She grabbed the cake I brought as a gift and checked it. After she seemed satisfied, she suddenly told me to come inside. Oh, Amber, you're here to visit, my mother-in-law greeted. I got a cake you like. Please have some later. Thank you, I replied. I noticed she was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. If doing laundry is hard for you, I can take it home, wash it and bring it back, I offered. Maybe you're struggling with housework because you're not feeling well physically, I suggested. I'm concerned because only their laundry is usually hung outside, and I'm worried she's losing weight. If she's eating 3 meals a day, this shouldn't be happening. I'm fine, Emma, thank you, my mother-in-law insisted, trying to avoid worry. But, I persisted, you keep coming every day. Sarah, my sister-in-law, interrupted me and looked at her own mother, as if she were something dirty. Sarah, you promised we'd take care of Mom, didn't you? I reminded her. So what? She snapped back. Exactly. At that time, she refused our offer because she said we'd take care of her. But what's really going on with my mother-in-law's situation? I wondered aloud. Because Mama's savings were used to buy a new car, so now she's a poor old woman with no money. Get it? You wanted to call her in, but it costs money now, so you don't want her anymore, Sarah accused, her tone accusatory. What the heck, saying things like that? I exclaimed, feeling guilty for not taking my mother-in-law in earlier. She sat behind me, looking uncomfortable. She's your real mother. It's shocking that you can talk about money like this, especially after she spent her hard-earned savings. Please be careful with your words when you say you don't meet her. Please think more about Mom, I urged. You're so annoying, Sarah grumbled, seeming unwilling to have a reasonable conversation. Not wanting to make things more uncomfortable, I called Liam to explain, and we decided to bring her to our house starting today. I quickly packed her things, got her into the car, and drove her to our house. My sister-in-law didn't seem to realize how insensitive she was being, and my mother-in-law was surprised by how quickly I acted. After that, our family of 4, including my mother-in-law, began living together. Emma, I'm sorry for being a burden, especially when your child is still young. And you have to take care of me too. My mother-in-law apologized. Why are you apologizing? Don't worry about it, we're family, right? I reassured her with a smile. She had always treated me well, like her own child, even though I came from an orphanage. Living with her made me feel happy and refreshed. I'm happy living with you, and it's my first time raising a child. There are many things I don't know, so I want you to teach me, she said, with a half smile. My husband is also happy with how things are going, and most importantly, my mother-in-law seems to be enjoying living with her grandchild. But despite this happiness, our financial situation as a couple wasn't great. We were cutting back on expenses and just getting by each day. Still, I was learning about saving money, and I didn't want to rely too much on it for happiness. But I had a dream. I always wanted to open a cafe, so even when I was a student, I worked part-time at a popular cafe. However, bringing my mother-in-law into our home meant putting my dream on hold. I didn't want to give it up for my family, so I worked hard to save money, continued working from home, took care of my child, and managed daily household tasks. One day, about 6 months after my mother-in-law moved in, she called me in a serious tone. "Eva, please come here," she said. "Yes, what is it?" I asked as I approached. She handed me a thick envelope. "This is for your living expenses. Take it without saying anything." When I checked inside, I saw bundles of $100 bills. I was surprised. Wow, is this money? I've always been good at saving. I have a habit of keeping bundles of bills, she explained calmly. I couldn't believe it as I counted. There were several $1,000s. Indeed, when I counted, it was exactly $7,000, she confirmed with a smile. "I can't accept this much," I protested, trying to refuse, but she stopped me. "I'm sorry for testing you. I was planning to see how you manage finances for a year, but I don't need to worry anymore. By giving you more money for living expenses, I made you stick to strict saving habits. I didn't want to burden you anymore. Please accept it. I'll cover the living expenses. How about $2,000? She suggested. I stared at my mother-in-law, stunned. "Oh no, I don't need $2,000, but why so much money?" I was still a bit confused. She explained that she won the lottery and started studying popular investment strategies. It turned out to be profitable. She actually had $80,000 in savings in a bank account and invested in stocks through the bank. My sister-in-law, hoping to inherit money from her father, set up a fake $20,000 to test their financial responsibility. When she gave them $200,000 for their future expenses, they couldn't make it last even a week. Even my father-in-law, before he passed away, was aware of my sister-in-law and her husband's spending habits. He mentioned the possibility of cutting them off if they tried to take all his inheritance. My mother-in-law thought it might happen. "But you don't put money first," my mother-in-law continued. "I was surprised but really happy when you refused to take the money out. That's why I want you to accept it. And I also want to help you achieve your dream." My mother-in-law must have heard about my dream from my husband. But is it okay to accept her generosity? I wondered. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to save the money for the future. When I told my mother-in-law, she understood and agreed. A few days later, my sister-in-law and her husband showed up unexpectedly, demanding to move back in with my mother-in-law. Luckily, my husband was home that day, so he handled the situation, and they left without causing any trouble. But I couldn't shake my concern for them. When my mother-in-law saw them, she suggested that we set a specific day for their visits since they might come again soon. Eventually, they agreed, and they came on the agreed-upon day and time. As soon as they entered the house, my sister-in-law demanded, "Pack up quickly, we're going home right now," without even saying hello. But my mother-in-law calmly responded, "What I was waiting for was, we've been waiting for you. Please have a seat." "How dare you? Who are you?" My sister-in-law snapped. "I'm John, an attorney," a voice from the next room replied. It turned out that my mother-in-law had hired a lawyer. We were in the next room and could imagine my sister-in-law and her husband panicking as we heard the conversation. The lawyer explained their demands. "We won't give away any current assets. They must repay the entire $2,000 they spent, and they have to leave the home they are occupying now." "No way, ma'am. I'm your daughter. How can you cut ties like that when your own daughter is in trouble?" My sister-in-law countered loudly. "Please reconsider," my brother-in-law added, raising his voice, which was unusual for him. But my mother-in-law remained unfazed and spoke calmly. "If that's the case, then you've forgotten what you did to me. Do you remember? I'm an elderly woman with no money. You said you didn't need money because I didn't. Despite having debts, you used the living expenses I gave you to buy a new car. And now I hear that your debts have more than doubled. You don't know how to handle money. Don't borrow from others. Moving in with me was just an excuse because you couldn't afford rent. It's your own fault. Regarding my husband's inheritance, I'll also ask you to give up your rights. I won't help you in the future. Remember that. Unable to respond, my sister-in-law and her husband left quietly, feeling hopeless after hearing from the lawyer. Despite their daughter's and husband's refusal to leave, they eventually moved out of the family home, and now no one knows where they are. When I asked my mother-in-law if she regretted her decision despite being blood relatives, she replied firmly, "As a mother, sometimes you have to let your child stand on their own." I didn't ask any more questions. As time went on, the savings we had from our monthly living expenses grew. "You can use that money for yourselves," my mother-in-law told us. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to use it for a family trip we had been putting off and as capital to open the cafe we had always dreamed of. With my mother-in-law's support, we took a step toward our dream that we had been hesitant to pursue. Despite facing many challenges leading up to the opening, we managed to overcome them together. As the grand opening approached, my husband quit his job at the wholesale company to help me source materials for the cafe and speed up the preparations. We renovated the family home where my mother-in-law and father-in-law used to live, turning it into the cafe. It was important to my husband to preserve the atmosphere of the building as a place of cherished memories for my in-laws. Although it took time to prepare, the cafe quickly became a beloved spot in the community, offering people a place to relax. I was surprised when my sister-in-law and her husband visited the cafe once, but they seemed much more humble than before. It looked like they had truly changed. "Looks like those two still have some learning to do," my husband remarked with a sigh. Tears of joy filled my mother-in-law's eyes as the family home transformed into a cafe, preserving the memories she had with my father-in-law. She became more active in her rehabilitation, addressing her previously ailing legs and hips. When she felt confident in her physical condition, she put on the same apron as us and stood behind the counter, looking vibrant and alive. It felt as if my father-in-law, watching from the border of a photo, was smiling down at her.